What's up, guys, and welcome to Q&A, the show where I take your questions from YouTube and Twitter and answer them here in video format. A lot of things to get into, a lot of questions as we wrap up this first week of camp and start to head towards the preseason. A lot of exciting things. The Browns are back in pads. Football almost less than a month away. First question comes from Ricky, who says, are you going to do live watch-alongs during the preseason games or during any preseason games? Yes, I will be doing a live watch along on the first and second preseason game. Depending on how those games go and who's playing in the fourth quarter, I'll either just start the post-game show during the preseason game. But yes, I will be doing a live watch along. It will be on this channel. And if you don't want to miss it, make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss that, and make sure you're notified so you get notified when I do go live. The next question comes from Odell Shaken Baker, who says, with JADEVEON playing well in training camp, do you think that will translate into him having a career year? It is the best opportunity he has had to have a career year since 2017 when he had a career year, or 2018, one of those 2 years before he got traded to the Seahawks. So I would say he's in that best position, right? He's still 28, right? He's not old by any metric. So it's not out the realm of possibility that he can have a career year. This is usually the point in time in a player's career in which they do have a career year. It's just he's had so many injuries, he feels a lot older than he actually is. But yeah, JADEVEON Clowney, having a career year playing opposite of Myles Garrett's probably the best situation he's been in since he's had his career years down there in Houston when he was next to J.J. Watt. And I do think that Myles is a better complement to JADEVEON Clowney than J.J. Watt is. Now, the big question is, what are you going to define a career year by? Because he could have like an insane year where on a lot of advanced metrics, he's like a 99 on a pro football focus grade, and he has like that kind of a great year, but he might have 8 sacks, right? Like if sacks are the metric that you're going to measure this by, I don't know if that's going to be a career number for him, just because Myles might eat up a lot of those sacks because he's Myles Garrett and he's freakishly athletic and he just kind of cleans up things that other people can't. But yeah, that's going to be an interesting thing to watch. JADEVEON's in a great position. I don't know if that means he'll have a career year because I don't know which metrics everybody's going by, but I think he'll have a really good year if he stays healthy. The next question comes from Mr. Tim, who says, is the good performance from Baker in the wide receiving core something to be excited about, or should it be a cause for concern or the Browns' defensive backfield? I don't think it's just been exclusively, hey, the Browns have been playing good offensively. Now, if that was the case, it wouldn't be that big of a deal. The entire defense is essentially new outside of like Myles and Denzel Ward. They're adding a lot of moving pieces. A lot of guys who were supposed to play last year did not play, did not stay healthy. So I would be easy to forgive the defense for any mistakes they've made in the first week of camp. But the honest to God truth is that they've been trading blows, which is exactly what you want to see in camp. Some days the defense wins, some days the offense wins, some plays the defense wins, some plays the offense wins, right? That's what you want to see. What you don't want to see is just a lot of mediocre football play, which we have seen in Berea plenty of times during this time of year. So I don't think there's really any cause for concern about the secondary. I want to see how they're doing once we get to some of those joint practices against like the Giants, how they perform. If they're getting cooked by Daniel Jones in a joint practice 3 weeks from now, yeah, that's a cause for concern. But right now, they're trading blows, and I think that's a good thing. The next question comes from Rex Fortune, who says, with DPJ continuing to emerge in camp, what do you see the Browns doing in a post-OBJ and Landry world? Which of the two is out earlier? Do the Browns sign or draft the next wide receiver to pair with Donovan Peoples-Jones and Schwartz? Donovan Peoples-Jones, I can feel comfortable in making that projection that he'll be a part of this team's future. Anthony Schwartz, look, he was drafted in the 3rd round, but that means nothing at this point, right? If he can't play wide receiver at an acceptable level, he won't be a part of the future. So more to be seen on him. I'm not going to factor him in to the future yet until he proves that he can be a really good wide receiver in the NFL. That being said, what would be the plan in a post-Odell and Jarvis world? I don't know if it's going to happen where they just get rid of both of them, right? I think it's probably going to be, if I have to look at this analytically, which I don't want to, it would probably be Jarvis, because Jarvis is owed more money next year. He's owed $15 million. There's a $1 million dead cap. When you look at Odell's contract, it's $13.7 million for the next 2 years. And if he's anything as advertised as Odell Beckham was before he got, injured, That's a bargain. That is a massive bargain for Odell Beckham Jr. So you would be a fool to cut him with those 2 years on this deal. Now, there might be a situation where if he has a great year this year, he wants a extension or a restructuring, and that kind of forces the Browns' hands to trade him. I would still think that the replacement for Odell is still not on the team. I think he will probably be a draft pick in the future, right? That seems like the way to go because there's nobody on this team that has the skill set that Odell has or anything comparable. Like, yeah, Anthony Schwartz is fast, not the route runner, not as quick as Odell Beckham, not as explosive. Yeah, Donovan Peoples-Jones is a good physical receiver. He's not the route runner and he's not as fast. Like, nobody has a skill set that draws safeties' attention, much like Odell, so they would probably have to draft that guy. Next question comes from Lydia, who says, what would Baker need to show this year that would make analysts believe he can elevate his team members with such a good core group around him? I am curious on how that would be displayed on the field. I hear this all the time about Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes. It's interesting, right? Like who they give, who's elevating who to, because Patrick Mahomes has always had Tyreek Hill. He has always had Travis Kelce. He has always had support. And Josh Allen really had a breakout year once he got support with Stephon Diggs. It's almost like you need teammates in this game of football, and it's not an individual sport. I was never big on like knocking people or knocking players for having good teammates. That's really not the fault of that player. It's really to the benefit of that player. And that doesn't mean that player is any less good. This idea that you have to be on the world's worst team and put up good numbers to prove that you're a good quarterback, I think is vastly overrated. I think, putting up big numbers on a bad team is one of the most overrated things that we do when you talk about football. But nonetheless, for Baker to kind of get everybody off his back, I think, it's not really that difficult, to be honest. I think he would just have to keep winning, right? Like if he has 2 more years or 3 more years like he had last year or better, I think people just get off his back at some point, right? Because it wouldn't be this thing you can point to. Right now, because people are conveniently forgetting his rookie year, people are just saying, hey, 1 good year, 1 bad year. It's an interesting narrative on Baker Mayfield. Odell coming back. Baker's numbers were better without Odell. So, you can have that kind of storyline in there. But if he just consistently plays good, then there's really nothing to talk about unless we're talking about championship games or Super Bowl rings or something like that, right? So I think in order for him to kind of get everybody off his back nationally, it would probably just take a couple more good years. Yeah, there's going to be the holdouts, especially if Baker turns into somebody who's like a top 5 quarterback. There's going to be holdouts who are going to always be negative towards him because it'll be profitable to be negative towards him, right? It depends on where he lands because it's real profitable to be a Aaron Rodgers or Tom Brady hater. It's really not that profitable to be somebody like a Ryan Tannehill or Matt Ryan hater because nobody really cares about those quarterbacks like that despite them being decent. So it all depends on where Baker lands. If he keeps playing well, I think it'd just be kind of consensus knowledge that he's a really good quarterback. And that's all he has to do. Now, it's easier said than done, but, it's what he has to do. Great question, Lydia. The next question comes from Dog Style, who says, who do you see having the greatest red zone impact on the receiving end? This is a really interesting question because you can say Donovan Peoples-Jones with everything he showed in camp. You can say David Njoku because he's a freak athletically. He's huge. And there's some easy plays you could draw up with him in the red zone. Same thing with Austin Hooper, even though he's not as freaky, but he's a little bit more consistent than David Njoku. And then, you got the obvious guys, Jarvis and Odell, even though Jarvis has never been a big red zone guy in his career or touchdown guy in his career. Odell has been at some points in his career. So, those are the obvious guys that you could go for. But I'm going to go with somebody who prototypically does not seem like the best red zone wide receiver, but I think he just has a nose for it. That's Rashard Higgins. I think this is where he's going to get a ton of usage this year is in the red zone. I wouldn't be surprised if Rashard Higgins has like a weird stat line where, for the season, he might have like 8 or 9 touchdowns with like 300 yards because he almost always gets his targets in the red zone. His ability to find soft spots in the zone, his chemistry with Baker Mayfield, and his underrated ability to make some crazy catches and just be in the right place at the right time and the timing. It's just really important in the red zone. And I think that's going to make him a dynamic red zone threat with Baker Mayfield. Again, prototypically, you would not say Rashard Higgins just because he's not super fast. He's not strong, nor is he big, and he's not extra athletic. He can't jump super high. So he doesn't seem like a guy who would be a great red zone threat. But his ability to find soft spots in zones, his ability to kind of be on the same page with Baker Mayfield, he has an ability to get open, and that's probably going to get him a lot of looks in the red zone. So I think Rashard Higgins is going to be like a secret weapon for this team in the red zone. I don't think you're going to see him a ton outside of that this year because they have Donovan Peoples-Jones who could fill some of those longer routes that Rashard Higgins runs. But I do think once they get into the red zone, you're going to see some Rashard Higgins, and he's going to have like a tight end like stat line almost. Next question comes from Z-Best, who says, if Mack Wilson continues to have a good camp and makes a team, who would be the one at risk? By the way, love your content. I think it would probably be Tony Fields. They'll try to cut him and put him on the practice squad. That's the only guy I can see them kind of getting away with. If you cut Jacob Phillips, somebody's going to pick him up. If you cut Taki, somebody is most certainly going to pick him up. And I don't even think he's eligible for the practice squad anymore. Obviously, Anthony Walker isn't. You're not going to cut JOK. Yeah, that would probably be Tony Fields, and they would probably try to sneak him on the practice squad. So he might just stay injured the whole preseason, to be honest with you, so in order for them to do that. The next question comes from Ian G, who says, assuming he stays healthy, do you think David Njoku takes a step forward for us this year? I think he has a similar year that he had last year. I don't know if he's taking a step forward. I don't know if he's that kind of player to take a step forward. I think he's a supplemental tight end. He's not consistent enough to be a number one guy at this point in his career. Maybe he does develop into that, but I don't think that's going to be this year. But that's going to be it for this week's questions. Again, guys, thank you guys for asking. Have a great day and have a good night.